another Scootle Live webinar. These webinars take place every week, and we're happy to get to the point of this first term where we've finished our first term schedule of the Scootle Live webinar, which took place every Thursday of term 1. This is a special on the language learning space.
You want me to take it away, project. Lee?
Just finishing off, this is our last for the term. We've been on every Thursday of term 1, and we're happy to mention that we'll be continuing all through term 2. We'll have a little break for the school holidays, but we will be back on the first Wednesday of term 2 and on our new time, and we'll be at the same time period but on Wednesdays during term 2. That'll be the only change. We have a great schedule for you. I'll talk you through that in a second. And I'll just show that up here on the screen. So just up there on the presentation slide, you should be able to see our schedule. So starting on the 23rd of April will be our first for term 2, and we have a special presentation on ABC Splash, another fantastic project. After that, the week after, we'll have a community meetup, and the community meetup events are designed to be collaborative and include Scootle community members talking about all sorts of things going on in their school communities, projects that they're involved in, resources that they are finding valuable, or just teaching and learning theories or strategies that you'd like to share with the wider education community that is Scootle Community. Now, quite a large national network. We're very proud to have involved a whole range of people from right around the country engaging in a national professional learning network for education, and that's what Scootle Community is. It's great to have with us tonight in the webinar a pre-service teacher. So Elspeth's here with us this afternoon, and Scootle Community, as I was mentioning previously, is a wonderful place for pre-service teachers to engage in that professional discussion and dialogue around education as you're still studying, and we're very pleased to have our pre-service contingent involved in and dialoguing with us in the space. So on to this afternoon's session, and we're very lucky to be joined by Jill Wilson, and we've also got Lucy Booth here. And Chinese language within the Australian curriculum areas. So we have within the space areas for students to participate, and also lots of resources and engaging stuff for educators as well. So I'll hand over to Jill now, who's going to tell us a little bit more about it, and also I'll introduce Lucy as well. Are you there, Jill?
Okay, thanks, Lee. And just a little bit more about myself. Because you're both interested in China, my expertise, I've been to China.
Yes, we can hear you. Yep.
Yes, here. Can you hear? Can you hear me, Lee?
Yes, Jill, we can hear you. Yeah, there's a slight lag.
I think. Anyway, I'll start again. I've been to China about 8 times. I spent many years taking teachers to China for the Asia Education Foundation, and in that capacity learnt conversational Chinese. When we started to build language learning space 18 months ago, it was a real pleasure to turn to all things Chinese. And in the process of building the site, I must say I developed a huge respect for people who are teaching languages, particularly people who are teaching character-based languages, because in effect they're teaching two languages at the one time. And I really respect the complexity of the work they undertake in Australian schools. So I'll just hand over to Lucy to introduce herself.
Hi, my name's Lucy. I've worked at ESA for about 18 months and I've spent quite a lot of time on Chinese language learning.
There's her profile, and you can look it up in more detail on the Scootle Community. Okay, so over to the language learning space. It was an initiative of the Australian Department of Education. They wanted us to create a resource that would help to engage students in language learning, particularly try to address the lack of motivation that many kids had in schooling. They wanted us to provide opportunities for kids to learn at home because there's a limited amount of time that schools usually dedicate to language learning. They wanted us to draw together the very diverse pool of resources that are out there into one space. They wanted us to help teachers extend their pedagogy in terms of language teaching, and they were also particularly interested in having the site connect very solidly with the Australian curriculum, which is still yet to be signed off. What I hope to do is to introduce you to the site and show you the breadth of content and some of the things that you can do with the content. If I have time, I'd like to pick your brains, because we are developing similar sites for both Japanese and Indonesian. So the work is ongoing, and your contributions to shaping the site would be much valued. And I know that Lee will put up a slide or perhaps include our email details at some stage during the session. So I'll take you to the site in a minute or so, but it's important that you understand there's both a teacher side and a student side to the language learning space. In the student side, students progress through a series of challenges that we've created and that are set by the teacher. Small groups or whole classes. You can make your own challenges or learning pathways by combining resources. You can make your own assessments and load your own resources. And this is the address for language learning. Can you bring up the share your space part? So can you see that, Lucy? Okay, we just
Yep.
site.
I can see we're getting there now.
Experiencing a little. Everybody
Yeah, there's a little lag, but we're getting there.
Okay. Elspeth, your hand. So have you got a question?
We still haven't got the page up just yet.
Okay, all right. That's good to know. So, Lee, Elspeth has her hand up.
Yes, I can. I think it's gone down now.
Okay.
Have you got the screen?
Nothing. I do.
Yes, there we go. We can
Just
see
come
it
up
now.
on our.
Yep, it's up there now.
Hooray! How about, and for Elspeth and Jenny and the other people who are part of the session? That's great. Great. All right. So I'm just going to change what I'd planned to do a little bit, simply because a number of you are going to China quite soon. So I'm going to start with what you're probably most interested in. So in creating the site, we did quite a lot of research to find out what kinds of professional learning people were looking for. What we particularly wanted to know what the drivers were for the Australian curriculum and what people might have trouble with. And so at the moment there's 15 professional learning topics on the website. We're building on this at the moment, so by the end of this year there will be much more content here, but the bit that you're probably most interested in at the moment is the idea of sister schools and visiting China. So there are two aspects to this module. China. I'm going to go to that first, and I've just updated this material, so there's a little bit more there now. There will be a little bit more in this section. In fact, we're making an EPUB out of this section. It won't be available by the time that either of you are going to China, but if you'd like to see the draft, just email me. See, there's quite a lot of advice and hints about what you might need to do before you go to China, or while you're there, what the kinds of interactions might be like. Okay, and the other section I think is quite comprehensive. It's a website about sister school partnerships, and what you'll find here is all the collated advice of people who've spent a long time developing relationships with China. So you can pretty much find out everything you need to know about partnerships with Chinese schools. It's very practical and very current. So that's a site you can go to after this session that will give you lots of support. Okay, so now on the screen what you'll see is we're back in the Sister Schools professional learning topic, which is one of the 15 professional learning modules on the site. I'm going to come out of here now and go to my home page. The way we put the site together was we trialled a prototype in most states and territories and conducted an evaluation. And then we had pretty continuous input from the Chinese Teacher Training Centre at Melbourne Uni. And we worked extensively with existing teachers of Chinese to make sure that the materials were very much grounded in what teachers needed. So here's a little taste of what's on the site. Now, I'm going to select Teaching the Sounds of Chinese and Pinyin, because this is really a starting point for many, many students. And you can, I think what I'm going to will that work?
Yeah, that should be fine, and if the volume's up on your computer too, then we should get the sound also.
Okay, I'll just check that. It's up, yeah, it's up to its max. Okay, so cross my fingers this will work. If not, you'll have to sit through just a minute and a half of something that's not so clear.
The LLS offers a range of resources to support speaking and listening skills. You can start with the sound of the Immortals. This unit of work sets the scene for learning about the sounds. There are two parts to the sounds of the Immortals unit. This one, followed by this one. There are lots of listening exercises. You can also find this resource in the Showcase section. The Adventure Travel Challenge helps students learn about Pinyin. Or you could create your own challenge using the Chinese with Mike videos in the resource bank. Add some vocab to your challenge to extend practice of the sounds of Pinyin. You can upload your own audio here so students can listen at home. The assignment assessment option allows students to upload their own audio files. The free tutor service enables students to practice what they've learned in class or at home. You can brush up on your teaching of this topic through professional learning about oracy. See your homepage for more ideas about how to use the language learning space.
Okay, so that's just a little taste of the material on the site. And we've created about 7 of these. Each has a video and a PDF. And the PDF is just a little bit more detailed than the video. So you can take it away and look at the detail of what you are going to use in the site to teach the sounds and the pinyin structure of Chinese. And sometimes we put some little additions at the end, like some hints about good apps that people are using. And these might be great for those of you who are visiting China soon. You might like to look at what apps might be useful. Okay. So here I am back on my dashboard. Now, every teacher when they register gets their dashboard that's set up for their use and will show what their students are up to. So you can see from my dashboard that my students are very lazy and they've done nothing so far. I, however, have been busy because I've been looking at the Chinese Dragon reading and Sister School. So it notes my professional activity over there on the right and what my lazy students are doing on the left. At the top of the site, you'll see the sections: your classes, challenges, resource bank, showcase, connect, and professional learning. And I'm going to take you through each of those sections very briefly. So I'll start with the challenges. One of the remits of the government was to try to engage those kids that drop out between years 5 and year 9. So they wanted something that worked in a digital environment to be a bit more engaging than some of the textbooks that people have been using to teach language. By the way, we see the site as being a great adjunct to the use of textbooks, and there is a pathway on the homepage which shows how to combine the use of a textbook and the website. But I won't show you that today. What you see here is all challenges which we have curated for the site. There's 30 of them. And they range from beginner to intermediate to advanced. And what we mean by challenges is essentially 3 aspects. We have a set of curated learning objects or resources that go together around a theme. Then the students undertake a test or a quiz, and then they get to experience what we hope is an engaging graphic novel element where they're involved in a problem-solving exercise set in China. And the graphics on this page will show you the kind of graphic adventures that they get involved in. The first one takes place on top of a train in Hangzhou. The second one is a dinosaur dig out in the middle of the Chinese desert out somewhere in Mongolia. You've got the beautifully surreal atmosphere of Dalian in the third one, and the ice festival. In the fourth one, the fashion mecca of China, Shanghai. So that gives you a little taste of the kind of graphic environments that the kids will be going into as a final part of their experience of their challenge. So I will show you one of them. We'll just go into Hangzhou Express. So a little bit of a lag time while it loads. Hope you're all hanging in there. Okay, so here you'll see on this particular page, you'll see the learning objects here, and this is all about how do I get around in China. This could be very valuable for you guys who are going. So how do I ask and give directions in China? That's a straight kind of learning resource. So the kids learn, they watch a little video, someone asking for directions. Then we have some little detours, which are kind of some little interesting cultural points usually, or language points about Chinese. So this is one that contrasts the way in which the Chinese view compass points with what we would more normally do in Australia. Some more vocabulary, asking for directions, a tennis match, some more vocabulary, and at the end, one other aspect which I'll come back to is the tutor service. Oh, thanks, Elspeth. We love it. We think we've really the homepage is something we've really tried to refine so it works for people. So here's a little quiz that the kids do, and I pretty much know I'm going to get this wrong because I haven't practiced today.
去火车站远吗？
So that's asking a question, and I think it's asking where the train station is. Yes, that's good.
不远。
This is a real test for me today.
近吗？
I've been working on the Japanese
往前
website,
走
and so
往右拐，
my Chinese is not so strong at the moment.
往左拐，一直往前走。
Oh dear. Now I have to get
一直往前走。
7 out of 7 out of 8 to go on to the next bit, or maybe I can click up in the blind spot. Lucy, where do I click? We've got a blind spot built into the sites to obviate this situation.
Don't tell any of the students.
Yeah. Okay, so here we are in the graphic novel part. And you'll see our main characters, Dan and Evie, the intrepid China adventurers into China. And they receive missions from Tony. And you can see their mission there, that a priceless Song Dynasty Ruware bowl has been stolen from the very beautiful Shanghai Museum. If you're in Shanghai this year, make the effort to go there. It's fabulous. And the student has to select the right direction. The thief unaccountably is on top of the train. Okay, so that's the short graphic novel that the kids go into, and we're developing more complex ones for the Indonesian and Japanese sites as I speak. So that's the curated challenges. This is an area where the created challenge section is an area which I think if I was still practicing as a teacher, I would really like to play here, because I can make my own challenges, and I can either make them from my own resources, or I can make them from the over 250 resources which are loaded into the resource bank by us, or I can look at the resources that I've loaded myself. So you'll see here that these are 3 resources that I loaded up myself because I wanted to use them in challenges. So my resource about an abacus is one that I loaded up. It's just a PDF resource, and it should be popping up somewhere, but it's slow. Because I haven't pressed the launch button. A little slow on this computer because it's not my regular computer, so apologies for that. So here's my very plain resource that I've loaded about the abacus, and I'm going to load that potentially into a challenge about numbers in Chinese. Okay. Now I've lost my way. I'll just find my way back into the site. I've clicked off, so apologies for that. The next bit I'm going to show you, so in the resource bank, I can upload my own resource. I can look at what's been loaded by other teachers. So you'll see there that we so far have a number of resources that teachers have chosen to share with us. I can also search. So if I search for pinyin, I'm just going to cross my fingers that something comes up. So here you'll see there's a number of resources that relate to sport, quite a number, and I can put those together into my own learning pathways according to the levels of my students. So now on to my students. Okay, you can see that I'm in the fortunate position of having very small classes. So we'll have a look at my Year 7 class, where I have enrolled all my cats, or the cats I have owned in the last 10 years. And really only one of them has been very active. But I can go into my cat Rafi's progress and see how much work Rafi's done on the challenges that I've set him. And you can see that he's 18% of the way through one of the challenges, and he's only 15% of his way through another challenge. So I can check on what he's up to. I can enroll students, I can take them out, I can make small groups within my classes, because what we found with the focus groups we worked with teachers was they were really dealing with huge diversity of kids, and often they had heritage speakers in their classes. They had kids who'd done very little except for colours and numbers. They had students who were from mainland China. They were coping with a lot of diversity. So being able to set small tasks that were suited to the particular groups was really useful. Okay. So that's how I manage my classes. Another element that I think you're going to want to use, and I'm thinking particularly of those of you who are going to China, you might want to look at the Connect section. And what we've brokered is a free tutoring service, which for some reason is taking a little while to load. The tutors operate out of Beijing. You can book a session with a tutor for free. You can use it as a teacher to practice your language use. It's not going to launch easily today, I think, because of, I haven't registered from this computer. You can use it with small groups of students in your classroom or with a whole class. So it would be great, I think, if for, was it Jenny, your kids who are all going to China in a few months' time, they could have a practice session with a tutor in Beijing and get in the swing of some words to use when they're travelling. I think that would be a really great thing. Jenny, I can see you've asked a question about how low the resources go to, or what the focus is of the resources and challenges on the site. The beginner challenges are really designed for students with very little language already, so they really are for very much beginners, probably as low as, say, grade 4, and then the rest of the challenges go to about year 9, but the bulk of them probably operate around the grade 6, year 7 kind of level. The resources really vary in their scope and application. And I'm thinking that if you have much older kids, you could go to the senior year material. So there's links to some really useful senior school materials here. If you had year 7s, there's a pretty good course that you could use to support a textbook that would keep you going for most of the year with this year 7 language course. You could also use quite a lot of the EDIS Chinese language market materials with primary school kids. And the other really great resource I'm thinking would be good for students who are going to China soon might be Rosetta Stone, which we've brokered as a free resource for you. And that's essentially uses flashcards to teach vocabulary. And I'm thinking if your kids were going to China, that would be quite a good resource to use just to get them in the swing of giving them a little bit of language and some confidence. Okay, Jenny, I can see you're losing a bit of connectivity, but we'll keep going. There's about 10 minutes left in the session. So I'm going to finish in a minute and give you the opportunity to ask some questions. I just want to make sure I've covered everything I want to cover before I do that. So I'll just, the other thing I want to emphasise, we created an app for the site which is free and it's won some awards. So that might be something your kids want to download and practice before they go to China, or you might yourself want to do that. The Connect session really links you into some of the networks. Hanyu Laosha, of course, is a fantastic professional development series running webinars like this. And Scootle Community, of course, you know about because you're here. So I might stop there and see what kind of questions there are. So Lee, maybe we'll go back to the, we'll go out of the. Thank you, that's great.
Fantastic, Jill. We're back okay? I think you should be able to navigate the slides still. Are there any other questions? I haven't got any hands up. It's just been brilliant to go right through the slides. Fantastic.
The site is huge. I think people will get a lot out of it. Okay, In the absence of questions, I'm going to take you through some of the ways in which we know that teachers have been using the site. So we asked the AFMLTA to conduct an action research project for us, and so this will give you a bit of a taste of some of the ways people are using the site. So Stella Liu from New South Wales, she has her kids for one Chinese lesson a week lasting 40 to 60 minutes. Very, very common scenario. And she uses the challenges, she uses the Can You Hanyu app and Your Chinese Tutor to complement what she's doing. And you'll see that she's particularly likes the fact that it provides differentiation in her classroom because she's got students who need extension activities. One thing I didn't show you was with each of the challenges, we've written some fairly extensive extension and teaching activities. So you can set the challenges for students to do by themselves, or you can work through the challenges as a class and embellish some of the digital learning resources with some whole classroom activities which are suggested in the teaching activities. Okay, here's another teacher who is really beginning to teach Chinese for the first time. Naoko is a very experienced Japanese teacher, but her school has switched to Chinese, and so she's using the site really to support her own self with that beginning teaching of Chinese. So as a very experienced language teacher practitioner, but someone who is new to Chinese teaching, that's how she's using it as a support. We know that quite a lot of teachers are using My Chinese Tutor for their own tutoring. We have teachers who are not so confident that they're not native speakers of Chinese, and so it's a great way of bolstering their skills.
That's a good question from Elspeth.
Yeah, I can see that question, Elspeth. That's not a question I can officially answer. But my long experience in schools says that in schools people often teach what's needed. In some schools there are teachers without language qualifications, like language teaching qualifications, teaching languages, and in some schools there are teachers without language proficiency teaching language, and they're in fact, not far ahead of the kids in that respect. And so it's because schools are desperate to sometimes put a teacher in front of class. Okay, another example of someone who's using the site is Lan Zhang. She uses a beginner level challenges in years 8 and 9. Lan is teaching in a distance scenario, and she sees the language learning space as providing students with support when the Chinese teacher is not there during the follow-up lessons. So it's used as an extra element when the teacher is not there. Okay, another school scenario is Sarah, who's using it as a flipped classroom. We're quite interested in the flipped classroom idea, and I'm working with a teacher at the moment who teaches Japanese in Queensland, and she does a lot of stuff as a flipped classroom concept. And so by the end of the year there'll be a professional learning topic that shows how to set up a flipped classroom and shows some of the resources that this teacher uses to run her flipped classroom. That's really it from me, unless you've got questions. There's an email there that will come to Lucy, and we'd be more than happy to answer any more questions you have, or help you, or to capture what you're doing and add to the site. We're working on an Indonesian part of the site which will go live in September this year, and the Japanese section of the site will go live in December of this year. And so we're quite active at the moment collating professional learning ideas as well as building the challenges in Japanese and Indonesian. So if you have things to contribute, or you'd like to be involved or be part of our work, let us know, and we'll keep you in the loop. We're certainly interested in the idea of looking at what your kids gain out of going to China. I think it was you, Jenny. We'll follow up on that. Any more questions? Okay, I'll take that as... And Jenny, I can see you typing. I've always wanted to work in radio. This is bizarrely like being a radio announcer, just talking out there to the ether, wondering what's happening out there.
Natural, Jill. You're doing a great job, and thank you so much for your time and for presenting to us, and thanks also to Lucy for your contribution. You two do a great job, and managing such a fantastic both professional learning and student learning space for teachers in the looking at Chinese language. I just think the model of the site as a whole is a great one that would be useful for a range of different curriculum areas, and I think the use of gamification of the language learning is just such a fantastic model. I like the graphic novel structure, and I think students have been responding really well to it. I have seen the engagement numbers for the use of the language learning space, and they are quite remarkable given the number of students and teachers in the country who are teaching Chinese. So it's very exciting to hear about the activities preparing Indonesian and Japanese spaces, and we look forward to that being the case soon. It would be great if this same model would be rolled out further across up to other curriculum areas, and not just necessarily language spaces, because I think it's just a really comprehensive suite of teacher and both student tools. I think it's really engaging. Thanks so much for your time. Any other questions? We haven't had any as yet. Just lots of thanks for your time, guys, which I'm also passing on to. I'm just going to just excellent stuff. Just into the next slide. We have this page up here with contact information and useful links, and also some takeaway resources that we have each time. We also have a couple of polling questions if you have time. Also just represented again on the screen is the calendar of events. These professional learning events are taking place regularly. We'd love to see you participating and joining in the conversation on these events, but also in the Australian Teachers Network, which is a network within Scootle Community, the largest network where we put through these sorts of events. The great discussion going on in this space is something I'd really recommend, and we'd love for you to join and be part of that space on a regular basis. We've got lots planned for next term, and we've got a new calendar coming out with all of those events, which we'll email you soon if you're receiving our monthly newsletter. If you would like to subscribe to our monthly newsletter, the link is also in there and available for you. The presentation itself, all the slides from today are down there and available for you to download too, and the takeaway resources. But other than that, thanks again to Jill and Lucy for your time, for presenting for us, and thanks to everybody else for participating or watching if you're watching